here at the Wynn Buffet. This is the most amazing buffet in Las Vegas because it has the best selection of keto-friendly dishes. We're talking not just low carb. I think pure protein and some fiber that won't spike your sugar. Speaking of sugar, well, let's see what I got now. My current sugar is 109. That is my baseline. So I haven't started eating yet. I'm going to go through the selection and help you decide which of these dishes is most low carb / keto friendly. Today, we're going to explore what happens when I eat myself full. How much does my blood sugar go up? So let's take a look at what Wynn Hotel offers. Literally, I think, in my opinion, the best buffet in Vegas. So we'll start with my favorite. I do believe seafood is a great place to start because, check it out, right? You got crab legs. Now, generally speaking, crab legs is just boiled. There's not going to be any added carbs to that. There's no crust. Same with broiled shrimp. So if you are keto required, low carb, these work. However, their protein content isn't as much as the red meat options because seafood is filling, but the protein density is relatively low. Other options include marinated clams and mussels. I would definitely avoid this sauce because you don't know how much sugar and carbs are used as filling. I also like to avoid sushi because why? Rice, right? The shrimp does not offset the amount of rice you're eating. Now, the tuna poke I actually may take because here you have, oh, wait, there is rice on the bottom. If you're gonna make that keto, rice has gotta go. Chinese food, way too much carbs because you've got the noodles, the fried rice, and a lot of deep fried crust, like this honey walnut, right? The honey walnut, even without the honey, you have the bread crusting around the shrimp. And for me, that actually spikes my sugar. But look at that prime rib. Okay, definitely we have to go back for the prime rib. And you guys will see for yourself what I end up getting for my meal. How about the bacon wrapped loin? Another possibility. Sausages I also avoid because you don't know what filling is in the sausages. But the rotisserie chicken, a little Costco style there for you who love Costco. Bacon, there you go. The thick cut bacon, that's also a possibility. Now, the Hawaiian dishes, there's a lot of marinade. So I avoid dishes that have marinade because, again, if you're strictly keto, you may want to avoid marinades that may have a lot of sugar, maple syrup, honey, and the like. Same here with the beef ribs. It's already covered in barbecue sauce. That is a lot of sugar. I do like the deviled eggs. Although, what's on top of that? And the grilled asparagus is definitely great. I will probably choose that. Crab boil is good. They normally don't add sugar to the crab boil recipes they use. And grandma's meatballs. See, meatballs, although has a lot of meat, they use a lot of filling and binder like bread or flour. And that's a lot of carbs, guys. Bacon wrapped scallops. Ooh, okay, that's a possibility. I would give that a thumbs up. The bacon wrapped pork medallions. Another possibility there. Here's the pizza section. Hard no, obviously. Oh, yes. Thai chili salmon. Definitely on my list for sure. The salami cold cuts. Yeah, that works. Not the bread, but the cheese and the salami cold cuts. Now, it's all about food order. So, in the salad section, I would start with salad before I dig into the meats. Why is that? It helps me with restricted calorie eating. Because if you start with a salad, here you have the poached shrimp. That's a good option. I will probably get this and the kiwi pecan salad without the kiwi, but I might take some of those raspberries because not a lot of carbs and that extra tart sweetness, a plus. I would avoid the beet salad though, because beets got a lot of carbs, sugar, and so forth. So, food order. I would start with a little bit of the kiwi pecan and then the poached shrimp. And then from there, I would move on to my protein selection. And let's look at the food we got. Oh, look at that. So I ended up getting the bacon wrapped scallops, the salad, the salmon, the prime rib, and the tri-tip vegetables. I chose vegetables that are very low in carb. That's bok choy, some eggplant, and grilled zucchini. Let's see what happens in 30 minutes. What happens to the blood sugar? All right, my friends, what happened after that win buffet? So it happened a few days ago. I was so busy at CES. So I had the win buffet while I was at CES, right? Business, traveling. And as you know, it's really tough to get in a good low carb meal. And it's easy in Vegas, especially at the buffet tables. That's why I went, because you have a variety to choose from. Oftentimes, when you go to a restaurant, you're limited to what the menu offers, and not all restaurants allow you to modify it in a way that would be consistent with your keto lifestyle, whether it's low carb or light carbs or no carbs, right? The problem always ends up being that they'll say, oh, no, we can't do that because you're literally making a whole new dish. So at a buffet, you can hand pick the kind of foods that you want. So here we are back home, beautiful Huntington Beach. And I had time to look over all my numbers, right? So again, I used the CGM to record my baseline. And then 30 minutes after the meal, we see the spike. And then 3 hours later, we see how quickly the spike drops. It's always about the area under the spike. For those of you who are metabolically challenged, at risk for prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, this is very important to me. And I like CGMs, continuous glucose monitors, to observe and monitor those spikes. Now, again, the actual numbers themselves are not accurate. What I'm looking at is the spikes. So many of you will say, and I agree with you, oh, Stello, which is what I use. Stello is not accurate. I compare it to my finger needle prick and it's off by 15 or 20. That's not the point. The point is just about the spikes. So let's talk about what happened. You saw what I picked out for food. I was very conscientious about going low carb where I could. I mean, nearly keto, right? And so what happened? Well, first of all, let's talk about the fail in terms of the choices. I was really looking forward to that raspberry salad, right? It appeared to be a balsamic dressing. It turned out it was a sweet raspberry vinaigrette with honey in it. And I was like, oh well, let's eat it, find out what happens. And it wasn't super sweet, but I could taste the sweetness, right? Maybe they were kind and used a sweetener, but I believe it tasted like either sugar or honey. And then, of course, the salmon looked so appetizing. Unfortunately, it was marinated in some kind of a honey barbecue, which was not apparent in the description. So I ate them because, again, let's see what happens. Now, here's the good news. Didn't add much to my spike. So looking at my numbers, right? Baseline 105 before the meal, and then it went up 30 minutes later to an hour later. It was peaking at 120, 121, and then began to drop from there. So could it have been lower if it wasn't for the vinaigrette, sweet vinaigrette dressing and the salmon marinade? Probably, but this wasn't bad at all. I mean, it was phenomenal. Now, I didn't get any dessert, right? So all the meals that you saw me film, that's all I ate. Well, all I ate, quote unquote. That was a lot of food, right? You saw how much meat I got. But I wanted to demonstrate that oftentimes when you travel, the buffet is your best friend. Now, I did something similar at Caesar's Palace at Bacchanal the following day, where I was very picky with what I chose, and it worked out great. Now, as a comparison, I went to a different restaurant last night, the day before. It was Gordon Ramsay's pub at Caesar's Palace, right? I looked at the menus like, oh, well, my choices are limited, but I chose the thick cut bacon. I go, okay, this has got to be safe, right? Thick cut bacon, fatty protein at worst, maybe more fat in my bloodstream, but definitely not more sugar. Surprise, surprise, how wrong I was. It was thick cut maple syrup bacon or maple bacon, apple cut, whatever. And I was hoping it wouldn't be too sweet. Oh, it was sweet. And it spiked because that was my first dish, followed by the hamburger and the steak and whatever. And it spiked my sugar to 150, 151 from 105. So that's different, right? So it's not like my body is super resilient. I would have been 120 no matter what I ate. Having the maple bacon, thick cut maple bacon, demonstrated to me that, you know what? It's all about food order because by the end of the meal, though, I mean, that spiked, but the spike was only there for maybe, I'd say 20 minutes, and then it dropped to 120. And by the end, right, I had a beef Wellington, very thin carb layer. And I had the hamburger bunless. I removed the bun, ate everything else. So the rest of my meal was pretty much low carb. And the spike was only maybe 20 minutes. Had I reversed the order, and this is speculation, but I've done this before. Had I had everything else first and then make maple syrup bacon last as quote unquote a dessert, what would have happened probably is that it may have rose a little, but I don't think the spike would have been as extreme. This is just to share with you guys what you can do on a business trip. The good buffets, and I know Las Vegas is uniquely amazing in terms of buffets, you will have a better selection. And if you do go to a restaurant with a limited selection, focusing on the proteins and fats like a hamburger, bunless burger, or if it's a thick cut bacon, let's make sure it's not too sweet, still helps. Let me know in the comments below what have been your solutions when you're out on a business trip and you want to stay low carb. And until next time, my friends, fun with this.